It's late afternoon, and the sun is hitting the kitchen island in a way that makes it feel like a forensic flashlight. It's catching every water spot, every stray grain of sea salt, and those three cabinet doors that he's left standing wide open again. You stand there, dish towel in hand, looking at the jagged geometry of those doors. They are a physical manifestation of a personality trait that feels like a personal affront. You're annoyed. There is this low grade buzzing static of a partner who chews too loud and tells the same story for the fourth time, and who exists in a way that seems designed to test the structural integrity of your patience. You reach out, click the cabinet door shut, clack, clack, clack. The sound is small, but in the silence of the afternoon, it feels like an exclamation point. And yet, 2 hours from now, you'll be in bed with this person, and you'll want to be. Hey, lovers. This is Sex in Real Life. Honest conversations about sex and relationships beyond 40. I'm your host, Stacey Herrera. We are taught that desire is a byproduct of harmony. We're sold this version of intimacy that looks like a high-end linen commercial. Soft lights, whispered secrets, and a profound, soulful oneness. In that world, annoyance is the enemy of the erotic. We assume that to want someone, we must first deeply like them, or at least we shouldn't want to hit them with a throw pillow. But the body is a contrarian. It doesn't read the script. Sometimes the very thing that makes your eyes roll is the thing that strikes the match. We don't talk about that as much because it feels unhealthy or toxic. Those labels we love to slap on anything that isn't polite or explained by a therapist. But there is a biological and a psychological alchemy in friction. The tension in the irritation, like when he leaves those cabinets open or when she forgets to mention the detail that actually mattered in a story for the 10th time this week. There's a gap that opens between you. For a moment, they aren't your partner or your better half. They are a separate, slightly maddening entity. They're other. Any student of desire knows that you cannot desire what you already possess or perfectly understand. Desire requires distance, and irritation, curiously enough, provides that. Think about the physical sensation of being deeply annoyed. Your heart rate ticks up and your skin flushes. There's this sudden, sharp focus. You are, in a literal sense, turned on, just not in the way that greeting cards suggest. Your nervous system is mobilized. You're no longer in the comfortable, sleepy days of long term companionship. You are alert. You're scanning and you're alive to their presence in a way that you aren't when things are going smoothly. We spend so much on our long term relationships trying to smooth out the edges. We want the easy love. We want the day where no one gets on anyone's nerves, but easy is often just another word for static. And when the edges are gone, there's nothing to catch on. There's no resistance. And without resistance, there's no heat. In a long term relationship, the greatest threat to sex isn't conflict, it's the merger. It's the way we become a blurred beige puddle of shared bank accounts and grocery lists and finishing each other's sentences. We become so familiar that we disappear to each other. You look at them and you don't see a person. You see a set of functions. You see the one who does the laundry or the one who manages the calendar, the one who mows the lawn or gets the cars fixed. Then he does that thing, that grating thing that reminds you that he's a different person with an infuriating internal logic. He leaves the milk on the counter and he uses the good scissors to cut cardboard. He hums that one song, the one he doesn't even realize he's humming, every day, all the time. Suddenly, The puddle has edges again. The merger is interrupted. The person standing in your kitchen isn't an extension of you. They are a stranger who is occupying your space and doing it wrong. There's this theory in psychology called arousal transfer. The basic idea is that the physiological energy from one emotion, anger, fear, or even deep seated annoyance, doesn't just evaporate once the situation ends. It sits in the tissues looking for an exit. And when you transition from the kitchen, the one with the open cabinets, to the bedroom, that residual heat doesn't care about the source. It doesn't distinguish between, I'm annoyed that you're so careless and I'm overwhelmed by how much I want you. It just knows the system is pressurized. The sex that follows isn't makeup sex. I mean, that's a different beast entirely, fueled by relief and resolution and the fear of loss and blah, blah, blah. This is friction sex. It's a way of processing the fact that you are two separate people who occasionally drive each other up the wall. It's an assertive act. There's an edge to it. You aren't looking for oneness, you're looking to collide. You're using the body to navigate the space that the mind finds exhausting. Let's take a look at the sensory details of a sexy friction night. It's the way his hands feel on your belly, the same hand that dropped the wet towel on the mahogany dresser just 3 minutes ago. It grounds you in this peculiar way. It's the opposite of fantasy. It's a high definition encounter with the flawed human being you've chosen to share a life with. When you are in a lily and eucalyptus mood, everything is soft focus. You are doing intimacy in a particular way, but when you're annoyed, you're present. You are aware of the weight of their body, the texture of their skin, the way their breathing changes. You are aware of them because they've been making noise in your head all day. In those moments, the annoying traits become a tether to what's real. We spend a lot of our lives trying to be the best versions of ourselves, trying to be together and the most supportive partner. But annoyance is honest. You can't fake the way your jaw tightens when they interrupt you. And you can't fake that visceral reaction to their lack of situational awareness. When you have sex with someone who annoys you, you are engaging with the whole of them, not just those curated highlights. It's kind of like an admission. I see the crumbs. I see the open doors. I see the way you never finish a cup of coffee. And yet, here I am. My body still responds to yours, even while my brain is writing a lecture about the basics of kitchen etiquette. I mean, it's a gritty kind of grace, I guess. The realization that you don't have to be perfect to be wanted, and they don't have to be perfect for you to want them. In fact, the imperfections might just be the very thing that keeps the pilot light on. There's a kind of woman, and maybe you know her, and she prides herself on patience. She's the chill partner. She doesn't let things get to her. She brushes off the crumbs and closes the doors, and she smiles through the repeated stories. She's traded her friction for a subtle life. But often, she's also traded her desire. By refusing to be annoyed, she has refused to see her partner as a separate person. She's internalized their flaws so deeply that they've become her responsibility. She isn't frustrated because she isn't looking, and if she isn't looking, she isn't wanting. When we allow ourselves to be annoyed, we are acknowledging that the other person is outside of us. We're letting them be an obstacle, and sex, at its most basic, is a way of overcoming an obstacle. It's the drive to cross the distance. If there's no obstacle, there's no drive. But And here's a big but. We really do need to be careful here because there is a line between the erotics of irritation and the erotics of contempt. Annoyance says you're doing something that's getting on my fucking nerves. Contempt says you are beneath me. Annoyance, it's got some heat, but contempt, it's cold, it's ice cold. Annoyance recognizes the other person's humanity, even if it wants to lecture that humanity on where the hamper is located. Contempt, contempt is a door that has been slammed and locked. You can have great sex, great friction-filled sex with someone who annoys you, but it's almost impossible to even get decent sex with someone you despise. One is a spark, the other is an extinguisher, right? So how do you tell the difference? You look at the after. After the friction sex, do you feel closer to them? Do the open cabinets feel a little less like an insult and more like a footprint? A sign that this person actually lives here. Or do you feel a sense of using them? Does the sex feel like a way to drown out their personality rather than to engage with it? Contempt seeks to erase the other person. Annoyance? Annoyance is willing to wrestle with them. So there's this scene that runs through my head. It's actually part of a story that I'm writing. So there's this couple at a dinner party, and he's telling a story. Maybe it's about a fish or about the flight delay. And she's sitting there watching him, and she's heard this 100 times before. And she knows the punchline is coming 3 sentences too late. To the outside observer, she looks bored, maybe even a little pained. She might even roll her eyes when he gets the detail wrong. But if you watch her closely, you see something else. You see the way that she's tracking him. She's not tuning out. She is hyper aware of him. She knows the exact tilt of his head when he's about to exaggerate. She knows the way his hand moves when he's excited. She's annoyed, yes, but also occupied by him. Like she's occupied by him. Later that night, when they're in the car, she might snap at him about the story. She might tell him that he talked too much, but there's a charge, a vibration, because for 3 hours, they haven't been the Smith family. They have been two people in a room, and he was the one who was taking up all the air, and she was the one who had to deal with it. That dealing with it is a form of intimacy. It's a refusal to be indifferent. Indifference maims and destroys sex, like trust and believe, but if you can't be bothered to be annoyed by them, you certainly aren't going to be bothered to touch them. So, why do we feel guilty about it? Why do we feel like we failed the relationship test if we find ourselves wanting to jump someone who just spent 20 minutes explaining the plot of a movie we've already seen? Maybe it's because we've been told that sex is a reward for good behavior. We treat it like a gold star on a chart. If you were good, if you did the chores and listened well and you were generally pleasant, you get the prize. We make sex a transaction based on niceness. But the body is primal and messy and uninterested in who did the dishes. The body understands that life is a series of collisions, and sometimes the most honest way to resolve the tension of a shared life isn't a long walk or a checked box or a therapy session. Sometimes it's wordless acknowledgement of the friction. It's leaning into the very thing that makes you separate. It's saying, I find you incredibly irritating right now, and I can't stop thinking about the way your skin feels. That feeling liberates you. It's a release from the pressure of having to like someone perfectly in order to love them deeply. It's the permission to be two whole, flawed, occasionally mismatched people who are still colliding. Tonight, when the sun goes down and the kitchen is dark, those cabinet doors will still be open. The crumbs will still be on the counter, hidden in the shadows. The annoying parts of the person you love aren't going anywhere. They're as much a part of the architecture of your life as the walls themselves. And maybe that's the point. Intimacy isn't the absence of friction, it's what you do with the heat that the friction creates. It's the ability to see the forensic details of water spots in the afternoon sun and still stay in the room. If you've ever felt that confusing surge of desire right in the middle of an eye roll, you're not doing it wrong. You're just human and you're probably more in it, more alive to the reality of your partner than the people in those linen sheet commercials could ever dream of being. If this resonated with you, and if you're currently looking at a stack of unwashed dishes and a pair of shoes that was left in the hallway, pass this episode along. It helps more than you know to remind each other that we don't have to be perfect to be electric. And if you have a moment, leave a rating or a review. It's the simplest way to help others find these conversations. It's the digital equivalent of closing the cabinet door for us. Next week, we're going to pivot a little bit and we're going to explore how blue light might be changing the way we touch. Yep, we're talking about cell phones and iPads and now television, I guess. I'll promise to make it interesting though. I'll see you then. Ciao.